I'm Alex Michelson, live in Los Angeles, and we begin with breaking news. A temporary ceasefire in the war with Iran. President Trump announcing on social media that he has agreed to suspend bombing of Iran for 2 weeks. That post coming less than 2 hours before his threat to destroy the, quote, whole civilization in Iran. Tehran is claiming victory, saying its military will coordinate passage through the Strait of Hormuz, which of course is the vital oil route that's been effectively closed by Iran since the start of the war. Now, all this comes after mediation from Pakistan. The Prime Minister has invited the U.S. and Iran to Islamabad for direct talks on Friday, April 10th. U.S. officials say Vice President J.D. Vance will likely be involved. The White House reports Israel has also agreed to the ceasefire, although a source says Israeli officials have concerns. It's unclear if the ceasefire agreement also includes Lebanon. CNN correspondents around the globe are covering the war with Iran. We will hear from Ivan Watson in Hong Kong, Mike Valerio in Beijing later this hour, but we start with Paula Hancock's live in Abu Dhabi and Julia Benbrook in Washington. Julia, to you first, what are we hearing from the White House at this late hour?
Well, with less than 2 hours before President Donald Trump's deadline and with his threat to target Iranian bridges and infrastructure looming, he did announce that he had accepted a proposal from Pakistan for a 2-week ceasefire. And this announcement, it came in a social media post, a Truth Social post, which is where he has made a lot of big announcements since the start of Operation Epic Fury, including those first joint U.S.-Israel strikes against Iran. But in this post, he said that the 10-point plan that he had received from Iran was a, quote, workable basis on which to negotiate. He also said that he believes the United States has achieved and exceeded its military objectives, and that he believes that as they work towards a substantial, a long-term deal, he thinks that they are far along. Now, it is important to note that there are still a lot of questions here, but the White House is expressing optimism as they look forward, making it clear that they are hoping to find an off-ramp here. I want to pull up part of his post for you that really highlights that. In this post, he said, quote, almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. On behalf of the United States of America as president, and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to a resolution. Now, Trump did say that a key condition here was reopening the Strait of Hormuz, that critical waterway where 20% of the world's oil typically passes through. Iran's foreign minister did say that its military will be coordinating the passage of vessels through the strait during this ceasefire. Now, Trump's deadlines have been changing a lot throughout this. In fact, he first threatened to target Iranian power facilities late last month, and he set a 48-hour deadline. That deadline was put on pause for 5 days, then extended for 10, set for Monday, and then placed for Tuesday at 8 p.m. And then, of course, we saw him accept this ceasefire proposal just less than 2 hours before that deadline. So what's next is the big question, and Pakistan's foreign minister has invited negotiators from the United States and Iran to Islamabad for negotiations on Friday. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt tells CNN that while there are discussions about in-person talks, that essentially nothing is official until we hear it from the president himself.
Julia Benbrook, thank you for that reporting. We now go to Paula. What are we hearing in the region this morning? Surprise?
Well, Alex, I think people are waking up in this region this Wednesday morning with pure relief that there is a 2-week ceasefire now. As Julia said, there's a lot that hasn't been decided. There are some conflicting reports out there, but a temporary ceasefire is far better than that destruction of a civilization in Iran. So there will be a lot of relief here in the Gulf, also in Israel and all neighboring countries of Iran that could have found themselves being the target of even more retaliation. So we've heard a couple of different official responses from Iran. I want to go through them with you. The Iranian Foreign Minister, Abbas Araghchi, has said that if attacks against Iran are halted, our powerful armed forces will cease their defensive operations. He also pointed out that the military will be coordinating safe passage through that crucial Strait of Hormuz during this 2-week period, saying Iran is considering the 15-point proposal that the US had put forward, but that Washington had approved this 10-point proposal. Now, a slightly different, longer and more fiery statement from the National Security Council. They have claimed victory against the United States, also saying that within this 10-point proposal they've put forward, there are things like compensation to Iran, which you would find it difficult to believe that the United States would agree to that, lifting of international sanctions and unfreezing of assets. But this is a starting point. This gives breathing room for the diplomatic process to take precedence now, and we know that that will be happening potentially in Islamabad. We've heard from the Pakistan Prime Minister saying that he's invited the delegations on April 10th. There is also, though, some confusion as to whether or not Lebanon is part of this. We heard from Pakistan's Prime Minister that Lebanon was included in this 2-week ceasefire. We've heard from the Israeli Prime Minister's office that it is not included, and President Trump didn't mention it at all. So that's something we'll hope for clarification on in the coming hours. And when it comes to reaction in Iran, now we did see pre-dawn celebrations in the streets. I must point out that these did appear to be very much pro-regime gatherings. So this certainly isn't a rounded view of how people in Iran are feeling. But we did see American, Israeli flags being burned. We saw the photo of the new supreme leader being held as well. But even on the streets, among the pro-regime elements, there was skepticism being voiced as to whether or not this will end eventually in a permanent ceasefire. There is very little, if any, trust between Iran and the United States. Alex?
Yeah, a lot safer right now to be a pro-regime demonstrator in the streets of Iran versus the opposite. We just got a word from President Trump just a few moments ago. I want to read this, and then Julia, get you to respond to it. He posted on Truth Social, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Likewise, so has everyone else. The United States of America will be helping with the traffic buildup in the Strait of Hormuz. There will be lots of positive action. Big money will be made. Iran can start the reconstruction process. We'll be loading up with supplies of all kinds and just hanging around in order to make sure that everything goes well. I feel confident that it will. Just like we are experiencing in the U.S., this could be the golden age of the Middle East. President Donald J. Trump. And Julia, let's talk about this moment for President Trump, because he had basically been talking about a timeline for the war of 4 to 6 weeks. If this all goes as planned, essentially, they would hope that this war could be over potentially in 2 weeks. And that would be a huge deal for President Trump. Talk about this moment for him on the world stage and what a historic moment we are experiencing right now.
It does seem like the administration is really looking for this off-ramp. But like I said earlier, still a lot of questions about how this actually comes into place. But we're in week 5 now since those first strikes, the beginning of Operation Epic Fury. And in this post, he says that the United States will be helping with the buildup in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's foreign minister had said that its military would be coordinating the passage of vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. So a few questions on how any of that coordination would go together. But as 20% of the world's oil typically passes through that strait, and at points during this conflict, long points during this conflict, that was at a near complete halt. That's been an impact that people here in the United States have been feeling directly. Those prices at the pump have been soaring. So while for some this may not feel like a direct impact, like it's something that they're feeling, that strait specifically is going to be something that Americans, and even as they look to the midterms, are going to have top of mind. So it's very clear that he wants to clear that up and clear that up quickly, but still questions on how that's going to happen and how quickly that could happen.
And hopefully we get answers in our coverage over the next few hours. We're grateful to have both of you along for that. We'll get back to both of you shortly. But hopefully to give us some answers right now. We had live.